This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Welcome, listeners, to Postcards from the Edge. I'm your host, Amy Nelson, and with me this week is Colin Higgins. Colin, thank you for coming on Postcards.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me. It's nice to come on and talk about Discovery.
Absolutely. Now, this is the first time you've been on this show, but not the network. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your involvement with the network and Star Trek?
Well, I was on the network when Chris was rubbing a flint knife and a stone together to make a spark. So, yeah, I started way back on the network when it was Trek News and Views, the Ready Room, and the Hyper Channel. So that's how far back I go. And I started off Melodic Treks, Deck 8, which was Star Trek Online podcast, which is on the network. Popped up on various other shows, The Ready Room, which is always good fun to do. I helped Brandon recently close off Melodic Treks. So I bookended that, basically started it and finished it, which was nice. And I've been a Star Trek fan since I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
Oh.
So, and Norman, by the way, from your comment from last week, I like every incarnation of Star Trek.
There you go.
So there you go. And that is genuine. So.
Well, very good. Well, I listened to Melodic Treks, and then I heard you and Brandon close out the show, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to get Colin on Postcards. So I'm so glad that you agreed to come on and, talking Discovery.
Yeah.
So we are going to discuss the fan response to episode 11, The Wolf Inside. Now, listeners, if you'd like to participate and share your responses, please post your comments on the Babel Conference. That's our listeners group on Facebook. Type Babel, B-A-B-E-L, into the search field and it will come right up. You can look for the picture of the Discovery inside the envelope, and that's where I take the comments from. So look forward to reading your comments. Now, so your initial thoughts, Colin, after watching The Wolf Inside, what did you think about this episode?
I thought part of it was slow. I think we could have done without the bath scene. So, and actually I was watching the bath scene and I'm thinking of Captain Janeway, because we all know she liked the bath.
That's right.
So I was watching the bath scene and had Janeway in my head. So I was waiting for Q to pop up. Or Chakotay to carve the bath. But I think we could have done without the bath scene. There was other elements of it that kind of threw me. I called it from the start. I said that in season 1, they're going to be in the mirror universe. And when they went into the mirror universe, I told people that Michelle Yeoh is the Empress. And they went, no, it can't be Michelle Yeoh, blah, blah, blah. And I says, no, it's the mirror universe. Michelle Yeoh is the Emperor, as says, and I got that 2 for 2, which I'm glad. And also Michelle Yeoh actually said when she died as a character, I will be back.
Right. Yes.
So that was, and everyone thought her coming back was her coming back as the hologram.
Right. And in flashbacks.
In flashbacks, yeah. But when she says, no, I will be back, just stick with it, all will be revealed, I thought, interesting. Uh-huh. So, and I do like Michelle Yeoh as an actress. I think she's a phenomenal actress.
She is. She is.
And the acting in this episode is absolutely brilliant. I think, the casting on the series is really good. Because they've got such a diverse cast. I mean, you've got film stars, movies, TV stars, theatrical actors, and Anthony Rapp. Stamets and Lily are my favourite two characters. I love Lily. I think Lily's brilliant. Lily reminds me a lot of the flawed human in all of us.
Agreed.
So she's easy to relate to because she's more like us. You know, it's not like the utopian society where everyone's perfect. Lily stammers, she gets confused, she gets caught out, and when she's playing Mirror Lily, and she has to be badass, she just clicks into it brilliantly.
Yes,
and that shows you what a good actress she is.
Yeah.
And I think her trying to help Stamets in this was the emotions that she ran a gamut of emotions in this episode, and she portrayed them brilliantly on screen. You know, if it's sad that science fiction doesn't often win awards when you've got actors of this caliber, and it's a shame that they do get overlooked at all the award ceremonies.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
and it's award ceremony season right now, so yeah.
I know, but Discovery would be next year, I suppose, anyway, because of when it started.
Yeah, that's true.
Because all the votes would have been in by the time they started. So, but yeah, I don't buy into the Captain Lorca from the Mirror Universe theory. I don't buy into that.
Do you think he's from the Prime or from a different universe?
I think like Norman said last week, I think he could be from a universe. It doesn't mean it's the Mirror Universe, and it doesn't mean it's our universe. Mm-hmm. But the telling thing is, if you remember the bed scene, you've seen his back, and you've seen all the scars on his back. And
right.
So he was genuinely tortured somewhere. The nugget that most people cling to is the fact that he said he killed his own crew, which is a very, very Mirror Universe thing to do, to kill your own crew. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that he's from the Mirror Universe. That just means it's like First Contact. Captain Picard knew, I can't think of his name now, Ensign Lynch, was it?
Yeah.
He got assimilated, and Picard just knew he wasn't a human anymore. Mm-hmm. Because he was a Borg, and he killed that other ensign because he knew what was going to happen to him.
Right.
To me, that's the same type of thing Lorca did. Lorca knew what was going to happen to him, and in his eyes, he spared them.
Right.
Because they were going to die anyway, but he made sure they died quick, rather than dragged out. It's like Picard. Picard killed the ensign because he knew what was going to happen to him, because he'd been there.
Yeah.
And he thought, as far as he was concerned, it was a mercy killing. So we've seen captains do this before. We've seen mercy killings before.
Yeah.
Not on such a big scale. But,
right.
But yeah, Lorca's just damaged. He's got PTSD. I mean, he sleeps with a gun under his pillow. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't think he's from the Mirror Universe. He's just very, very damaged.
Yeah. Well, let's get to what the fans thought, some of their initial thoughts. So Sam Greenwood says, wow, that was great. It literally left me speechless.
A lot of people expressed that sentiment as well, that they was just like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when they first went into the Mirror Universe and everyone went, oh, okay. Mirror Universe again. But I thought that as well. I thought, really? Couldn't do something different? You know, you've got this window to play with. But what is interesting about this is Sarek in this episode is with the rebellion. Now, we know this is set 10 years before TOS, but Sarek is with the rebellion and Spock is first officer on a Terran Empire ship in 10 years' time. So I wish, I mean, we probably won't get it on the show, but it'd be good if someone put it in the book, how that came about. Mm-hmm. How the Vulcans went from being in the Resistance to serving on the ship. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this is what you do. This is what Trekkies do. You're watching an episode and there's all these links going through your head.
Right.
Well, hang on, if he's there, then why did that happen and why did that happen? And that's what Trekkies do.
Yeah.
So...
And Dennis Bellinger says, all in all, great episode. I could have taken 2 hours of this tonight. I agree.
Yeah, they could have done 2 hours.
Yes.
Easily. They could have done a special.
Yeah.
on this and dragged it out to a 2-hour show easily.
Yeah. Do you want to read the next one?
Yeah, Justin Osak, great episode. As much as I enjoyed last week's episode, I enjoyed this one even more. The funny thing that even though the major reveals have already been spoiled for me, getting there was very compelling and the little twists and turns felt predictable.
Unpredictable,
sorry. Can't wait for next week. Some of them were unpredictable, some of them were very predictable.
Yeah, well, the reveals we sort of knew, so.
Yeah, the problem with the writers, we was talking about this on Twitter the other week. If they'd have dumped it like a normal Netflix show, when it all gets dumped in one go, then the reveal wouldn't have been such a hot topic of debate. But because they drip fed us, and Trek is nitpick to the nth degree, everyone worked out the reveals way before they happened. So when they did happen, it was like, yeah, I knew that.
Right. Yep. Harry Mickelson says, this episode was really good. Really, really good. It was great to see how the various plot points came together in this episode.
They're still selling some more strings to pull, Harry.
Yes.
So, because they mentioned the Defiance, they mentioned how it got there, so they tied Enterprise in. And they also tied in the Folium Web. So there's still a few more strings to pull in the next episode in relation to them two things. All right, so Suman writes, the acting on this episode is incredible. When Ash became Spock, amazing transition. I'm glad Ash is not dead. He's too beautiful to look at. Unbridled fashion there. All hail the Emperor. So happy we were getting an episode with her. Fantastic actress. Couldn't agree more. Mira Stamets has a plan that includes our Stamets. This is going to get very interesting. I love that scene.
Yes.
I love that scene when Mira Stamets walks up to Prime Universe Stamets and says, I was wondering when you were going to get here.
Yeah.
I love that. So it's going to be an interesting tug between, because we know our Stamets is a nice guy. That doesn't mean that their Stamets is a nice guy.
Exactly.
But if they're both tied into the network, that could go anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
That could go anywhere.
Mike Bogle says, now that the big 2 fan theories have been confirmed, I can't wait to focus on the story unfolding for the remainder of the season and see how it ends.
Fad Height, I hope I've said that right. I really enjoyed this episode. It's great to see Andorians and Tellarites. I love the Tellarite. I did like the Tellarite. I didn't believe for even a second that Stamets was really dead. So while I could appreciate Tilly's reaction, it didn't have an emotional effect on me like Korba's death did last week. Yeah, I had the same thing. Speaking of Tilly, I love the scenes of her geeking out about the spores to find a cure for Stamets. The Tilly Saru scenes were reminiscent of the Janeway Taurus relationship on Voyager. Mira Detmer was quite the badass this episode. I think Burnham needs to watch her back around her. One thing that bugs me is that Discovery was somehow close enough to the Shenzhou to beam Vok and yet remain undetected. How did that work? While I was unsurprised that the Emperor ended up being Giorgio, it was a nice reveal and love seeing Burnham's stunned reaction. I'm definitely looking forward to this week. Okay. First of all, the Stamets' death, in quotation marks. What I didn't get with that is why they left him in the tube.
Right. There was some questions about that too.
Yeah. Why did they not take him to sickbay? Because he's dead. Surely you'd put him on ice. So the fact that he was still in the tube meant he was going to come back. It was blatantly obvious. The transporter, they haven't said in this incarnation of Star Trek, the transporter range. So we know from various episodes that the transporter range is roughly 10,000 miles. But they've already threw a lot of established Trek out the window. So it's safe to say that if they watched Star Trek Into Darkness, where they had trans-dimensional beaming, they went down that route. So it's, there's a lot of stuff in this. They've got holographic communications, which we didn't get till DS9. From what we've seen, the Defiant could be cloaked and able to firewire cloak, which didn't come in until Star Trek The Undiscovered Country. So there's a lot of stuff that they've already decided to throw out the window. So they might have thrown out the transporter range as well.
Yeah. Well, we do know that Lorca told the Discovery to, follow the Shenzhou, but just, not be detected. And so maybe they're hiding behind a planet or something, so.
The old thing about hiding over the magnetic
That's
north.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of talk on the Babel conference about Tyler and Voq, obviously. And Dan McWilliams has to say, glad they didn't kill off Tyler. That would have been a waste. The reveal to Burnham scene was perfect in all of its confusion, creepiness, and upsettedness.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm glad they didn't kill off Tyler either. Because you've also got to remember that his counterpart is also in the brig.
Right.
So now they're in the brig together.
Yep. Yeah.
So, Janessa
Chiharda.
Chihad, thank you.
See, I tell you, I know these listeners. They
I'm glad you
posting.
The sudden change in demeanour when he revealed himself to Burnham, subtle and creepy. Kudos to Shadiz Latif. Yeah, brilliant acting. Absolutely brilliant. And I love the way his voice changed.
Yes.
From human to Klingon.
Yep.
I love that. It's a nice little touch.
Yeah. Andrea Boot says, I'm not angry at the whole Ash's Voq reveal. I'm disappointed.
You should have expanded on Andrea. Why are you disappointed?
Well, and I don't mean to put words in her mouth, but previously she was talking about how Tyler is experiencing PTSD and how realistic those flashback scenes were because she herself experiences PTSD and didn't want that reveal to minimize that storyline. So. Oh,
so because she has PTSD herself, she can... Yeah, she sees it differently to those of us who don't know what it does.
Right. Yeah.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting angle to expand on from someone who does understand it.
Right.
So, because I remember in Iron Man when they did the PTSD thing and they made it a joke and that upset a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, but I think in Discovery they've tried to portray it for what it is. Mm-hmm. But obviously, it's like a lot of mental illnesses. Unless you actually have it, you don't know. It's hard to relate to. So.
Right.
So, anyway. Carl Bard, I don't think we've seen the last of Mirror Voq. I reckon there's going to be some serious mind melding going on with Ash to transfer his consciousness to Mirror Voq and free Ash.
Yeah, interesting.
We don't even know if Mirror Voq's alive.
Yeah. I know. That last scene there. So Lynn Payne says, wow, what an episode. Yes, some revelations were not shocking, but the way they were executed was so well done. As always, I need to watch it again in order to really absorb it all. One thing I can say is that Shazid Latif is a fantastic actor. He's essentially playing 5 roles here. Original Voq, Ash Tyler, Tyler suffering from the emergence of internal Voq, Mirror Voq, and Voq through Tyler. Amazing. Now, I didn't even think about that, but that is very true.
No, I didn't, not the 5.
Right? No. Yeah.
I did not get the 5. I had Mirror Voq, Mirror normal Ash, normal Voq. I didn't get the other 2.
Yeah. So good job, brilliant.
Lynn. Yeah, that's brilliant. I also like the way that the fight scene, when they were basically Voq fighting Voq.
Yeah.
That was good. So, Chris Campoloni, such incredible acting. You should see that Ash Tyler slipping away from this guy like he's trying to hold water in his hands. The very second that there was nothing left was so clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when he realises who he really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the whole between him and Michael when he was realizing who he is and then on the transporter pad, like just solidifies he is Voq. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people have been saying on the Bible conference why he didn't give her away on the transporter pad when he thought he was going to be executed. Mm-hmm. And I think some people answered it perfectly. He had nothing to gain.
Right.
So he wouldn't have achieved anything. They wouldn't have believed him anyway.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that made perfect sense to me.
Yeah. So another hot topic was Emperor Giorgio. And Patrick Carlin says, "All hail Empress Giorgio. I cheered when she showed up."
She had a badass costume on and all.
Yes.
I love the Empress costume. Oh, which incidentally, did you notice how long Tilly's hair is at the back?
Yes.
When she turned round to the console with Stamets? And I thought, man, that's seriously long hair.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That was like, wow. Because it's normally always up. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and curly too. So that, yeah.
Yeah. Some guy called Brandon's wrote in. I don't know who he is. Brandon Shane Metallic. Rings a bell.
I don't know.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Rings a bell. I think I've heard about him somewhere. I bet that in the Mirror Universe, Burnham was raised by Georgia. Oh, that's nice. Raised by Georgia.
Yeah.
Because she was her mentor for 7 years.
Yeah,
So
but
could she have
what's
been
the
her
relationship in the Mirror universe?
Well, when she showed up, she says, "Don't you bow before your emperor." So she's still the emperor
Yeah.
or the empress.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that she might not have raised the mirror version. Mm-hmm. Because obviously she wouldn't have gone to Vulcan because they're at war.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Kevin Lee. Oh, dear. Okay, Kevin.
yeah, I'll leave you with that one.
Heaven Street. Okay, so sorry, Kevin. But he called it, well, it wasn't that big of a leap to make, guessing that Captain Giorgio's Mirror Universe counterpart was the unseen Terran Emperor. But even beyond the thrill of being right, it was a thrill to see Michelle Yeoh in full Mirror Universe Royal Regalia, and I can't wait to see more of her next week. Absolutely.
Yeah. There was some people who speculating it could have been Sato.
Yes, we read that last week on Postcards, yeah.
So, he called it. Some people didn't.
Yeah.
So, but they already said they wouldn't use any existing actors, so I knew it wasn't her. Would have been cool if it was, but...
Yeah.
Liam Smart says, "I'm glad they've revealed Emperor Giorgio now rather than waiting for a couple of episodes. I probably have gotten a little annoyed by waiting for another obvious mystery to be revealed. With Vok also fully revealed, I can feel that I can now watch the remaining episodes of the story and be surprised where they go with it. I don't fully buy the Mirror Lorca theory everyone is on about. No, neither do I.
Right.
Neither do I. Norman had a good theory.
Yes.
But time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah. So there was just some bits and pieces, some small comments that didn't really have a general theme. So I'm creating this little segment of bits and pieces. And it was David Michael Farley says, "In this one episode, evil Detmer has more lines than good Detmer has had all seasons." And I agree. Detmer, I think she's coming up. I think we're going to see a little bit more of her. We need to watch her.
Yeah. It would also be interesting to see what the sequence that they recorded it in, because in the normal universe, she's got all the stuff from the Shinzu incident on her face. So did they film all them and then take it off, or did they film all them or her mirror universe and then put it on? Mm-hmm. So that would be interesting to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, she finally had some lines.
Yeah. Well, and that look when Ash Voke attacked Burnham and she was crouched on the floor, and then Detmer walks in and sees her, and then Michael stands up and regains her composure again. But there was something there in that look that made me question.
Yeah, and it also is a demonstration of how strong Saru is.
Right?
Yeah, because he threw him across the floor like he was a rag doll.
Yes.
So, just because he's tall and thin doesn't mean he's strong.
That's right.
So, Dave Venstra, this was the first Mirror episode I have ever liked. Really? Interesting.
Do you like the Mirror episodes?
I like the Mirror Universe episodes. Mirror Mirror, which was the first one. I think that was a nice introduction. I think they've overdone it in some incarnations. Enterprise was a ham fest, but they got told to ham it up.
They did, yeah.
They got told to ham it up. So that, I can forgive them for that, because I've seen Scott Bakula do interviews about it, and he says, "No, we got told to overact." He said, "So we ran with it."
Yeah.
So
I like the Enterprise mirror.
Yeah, In a Mirror Darkly is a good episode. I think DS9 used the Mirror Universe really well. So they did a good job in DS9 with using the Mirror Universe. I don't know. I mean, there is some good Mirror Universe episodes. I wonder if it'd be interesting to see if you've watched all of them.
I probably should do that, as I haven't seen all of them.
Yeah, because I mean, if you TOS, DS9, and Enterprise, there's a lot of Mirror Universe episodes. So
yeah. Well, June Sanum says, love all the facial expressions Isaacs brings to Lorca. And especially that one look when he sees Giorgio, Emperor Giorgio. That was really good.
Did you also notice he didn't bow?
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, he didn't bow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, everyone else on that bridge bowed except for him.
Huh. Well, we'll have to see what that means.
Yes, that was very telling. And also, he's. I think they're keeping him in an agony booth on low, because every time she goes to see him, he's hot and sweaty and panting. So he's not just in the brig.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Matthew Baker. This may be obvious, given it's Star Trek, but I love that there was never any real question that they'd stand with the Coalition of Hope. This is Star Trek. Yeah, this was a very Star Trek episode. They haven't had many Star Trek episodes in Discovery, but this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. Rebecca Skipper says, this is the first episode that reminded me of Star Trek. I prefer TNG.
Yay! A woman after your heart.
Absolutely.
God, can you imagine Riker in this? Wow. That'd be a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Jason Chapman. I find this episode very disturbing. Michael Berman was wearing someone else's pyjamas. I wouldn't really call them pyjamas, but okay. Granted, they were her Mirror Universe counterparts' pyjamas, but man, this is so gross. I hope they were clean.
Isn't that so funny?
That's of all the stuff that was going on in this episode, you're worried that she's wearing dirty pajamas. I love it.
Yeah, it's good. And someone else posted, and I'm so sorry, I forget. I didn't get it on here, but they were asking, I want Michael's lingerie. And I was like, who's looking at her lingerie at this episode? But there's definitely people
Well, she did stand in the window in her quarters in her lingerie for a good 3 or 4 minutes.
Yes.
So, she was there in lingerie. So even if she wasn't being overtly voyeuristic, it was there.
Yeah. Well, so. and I was thinking, because, when you talked about the bath scene and sort of how slow it was going, and I was talking to another person about it, and I think that, it was really slow in the beginning, but when you're listening to her monologue and just sort of catch us up and her thoughts on her being in this mirror universe, even though it's not her universe, I think it's important and really ties the story together. And when you look at the mirror universe, I wouldn't suspect that there's a bathtub in any captain's quarters, but the mirror is sort of the opposite, the indulgent, the gluttonous, and the war, so these extremes. And so I sort of felt that it was fitting, actually.
Yeah, and Mira Berman doesn't actually just have baths. She has baths with Saru bathing her.
Exactly.
And whatever he was doing with her neck and basically she lies in the bathtub while her slave washes her.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's a whole another level of self-indulgence. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think the actors, when they read the script and she went, I'm going to do what?
Yeah. Well, Nicholas Paul Collinson, I'm so glad to include his post here. It is a little long, so stay with us, listeners, but it's really good. He says, yet another great episode, and straight out of the gate, this one speaks to me personally because, as I mentioned previously, I am an entomologist, but my actual PhD project is studying the interactions between insects and plant symbiotic fungi called endophytes. So all the mycology stuff in this was my jam, especially when Tilly said, what organisms cares for hosts? My partner's and my immediate response was an endophyte. The spores have a mutualistic relationship with stamets, just like my endophytes do with the grass host to protect them from predators. It's really great watching with my partner. She is so into the Klingons and adores Captain Tilly, and it's great to have the perspective of a non-Trek fan for the things that I might take for granted. I'm glad we get to see a planet again, even if it's just obviously a quarry. One negative that my partner has with sci-fi in general, which applies here a lot, is that it feels very claustrophobic when they're stuck on ships the whole time. Yay, we finally see an Andorian and a Klingon, a Vulcan, and the guy from Lordy? Wait, those are Tellurites? Okay, nice test. Neither of us can explain how Discovery got there so quickly to transport Voq about, though. But that was a great twist and genius idea for getting the intelligence to them. I know we all pretty much knew Georgiou was the Emperor, but that reveal was still super sweet. She looks so amazing. Super excited. Oh, super episode tonight, but there are still so many unanswered questions. Bring on next Monday. So previously, Nicholas has talked about, especially with the Saru episode and like how fast he ran and the prey and predator, because he has this background, in biology and stuff like that. So I'm glad to see his post again here with this endophyte and mycelium and stuff like that.
I'm just glad you read it.
Yeah.
And Nick, what happens is you get them into one episode of Star Trek and you suck them into the series, and then you go, well, you like that, love, so why don't you watch this as well? Because trust me, it's good. And then before you know it, she's a Trekker.
There you go. Absolutely.
So it's slowly winding, mate. And before you know it, she'll be going to conventions with you.
Yes. Come to Star Trek Las Vegas.
Yes.
All right. Well, here in Postcards, we don't just read the positive. We also talk about some questions and concerns. And Simon Lindy DeLuca says, why didn't Voq expose Burnham in the transporter room of the Shenzhou? And we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah. He wouldn't have gained anything.
Right.
So they would have just thought he was clutching at straws to stay alive. So, Christopher Lutz, one nitpick, two questions. Can we trade our Saru for the Mirror Universe Saru? That Saru was honourable and compassionate. Our Saru tells Tilly he'll consider recommending her for the command program after an amazing job as Keeley and helping Stamets. Seriously, she would be a better leader than Saru ever had to be. 2. Why couldn't we see the Defiance at the end? Disappointed about that a bit. 3. Did they combine Voq and Tyler together on the operating table or physically mould Voq into Tyler? Very gruesome to look at, so I'm not sure. Okay. Totally agree with him on the Saru. The Saru in the normal universe. This is a family-friendly podcast, so I won't say what I think. But totally agree with what he's saying. I mean, she comes up with a brilliant idea. She may have saved Stamets in the process, and he says, I'll think about it.
Right, yeah.
I always thought, you condescending, self-righteous. Oh, she needed a bit of mirror Tilly there.
Yeah.
The Defiance at the end, most common theory is it was cloaked. So, well, we'll find that out next week. Well, Sunday. Sunday for you, Monday for me.
Yeah.
So we'll find that out within a few days. And the way that I saw it, because he said in the episode that they removed the Klingon from him. So I got it that they turned Voq into Tyler rather than combined Tyler into fuck.
Yeah, and when I watched it again, he says something along the lines that they made him a human, like they were reducing him to human. So when I thought of that, I was thinking, well, because we know that Klingons have, duplicate systems, and so that they were removing those duplicates to make him more human.
Yeah,
so
and you actually seen him taking away like the extra ribs.
Yeah.
And they'd you seen them slicing certain organs and removing them. So yeah, they turned. I mean, the other argument I've seen people put forward to this is why Lurker's Tribble never went nuts at him, because the thing is Lurker's Tribble's neutered, so he might not be able to sense Klingon once it's been neutered.
All right. Ken Tripp says, I really enjoyed Discovery a lot, but this one was very predictable and very slow. I was getting frustrated with the pace. The first 10 minutes of setup could have taken 2 and could have moved the plot along. I hope the next episode puts a bow on the Mirrorverse and get back to the home front and my favorite admiral.
Yeah, I agree with Ken.
Yeah.
There was some parts of it were way, way slow. They didn't actually add anything to the story, so they could have sped some things up.
Mm-hmm.
The bathroom scene, I think that was to establish Saru's role in this universe rather than anything else.
Right.
But yeah, it could have been, it didn't have to be 10 minutes. It could have been like 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
To establish the same thing.
Yeah.
And your favourite admiral, Ken? I wonder who that is. John Wood. Wow, another great episode. Did the Emperor's ship have the ability to fire when cloaked? It would be cool if Discovery could get that tech to take back with them. It would be cool, but I don't think it will happen because they've already been chastised for throwing certain elements of canon out the window. If all of a sudden the Federation could cloak way before the TOS incident where they steal a cloaking device, that would upset a lot of people. I know the Spore Drive doesn't appear anywhere else, but the Spore Drive's different because if you think about it, no Stamets, no Spore Drive. Mm-hmm. So the fact that, and it's also a Black Ops ship.
Right.
So, take for instance the stealth fighter bomber. That was around for 20 years before people knew it was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a Black Ops ship. So if Stamets dies and the technology doesn't work, they just hide it from everyone. So that's easily explainable. But yeah, that would undo the TOS episode where Kirk and Spock steal the cloaking device. So I don't think they're going to do that.
Okay. Sanjeev Gopal. I don't really feel connected with these characters enough to have an emotional response to all these reveals. How did Saru know to beam Ash aboard and that he was a baddie?
Well, that's easily explained. Burnham went back to her quarters and told them to take him down. Mm-hmm. So we already know that she had a low-frequency way of contacting Discovery. So when she went back into her quarters, she contacted Discovery and told them what she was going to do. Mm-hmm. So that's easily explained.
Yeah.
Mark Rodriguez. A couple of nitpicks, if I may. Once the doctor tried to resuscitate Stamets and failed, he was dead, yes. Yeah, they just leave his body in the chamber, yeah, we said. They don't even cover him with a sheet. It was vertical, the sheet would have fell off. It's fine. Yet it's for the dramatic rebirth, but it made no sense. They were taken to sickbay and whatever. Second, when Tyler is beamed into space for his execution, he is put from space by Discovery. They must be within transporter range, yet not in sensor range of the Shenzhou. Discovery cannot cloak, right? No, but Amy's already told you. They was hiding over the magnetic North Pole of a nearby moon. So it's all fine.
It's all good. Hugo Rodriguez says, I'm enjoying the show, but all reveals are obvious. A serialized plot on a weekly show needs to have better planning and interesting stuff to watch. Too simple for this type of show nowadays. So there you have it.
If you're a Trekkie, yeah. If you're just a sci-fi fan that's watching this because it's on Netflix, you might not be getting what we're getting. Mm-hmm. So But some of them are obvious. Like I said, I knew there was going to go to Mirror Universe, and I knew Michelle Yeoh was coming back as the Empress.
Yes.
Not that I'm bothered about that.
Yeah, no. So some final thoughts here. We have Chris Chaplin says, this episode meditated on some pretty Trek ideas. In fact, ideas that Nemesis tried to do, but this did it better. Well, I might argue on that, but we'll just...
Yeah, I might argue on that as well, yeah.
The idea that under the right circumstances and environment, we each have the potential to live as they do in a mirror universe, driven by fear and ambition. Discovery doesn't have grand speeches on morality, ethics, and philosophy. It's too fast-paced, but these qualities of Trek are still built into the show.
Yes, in a more subtle fashion.
Yes. Subtle.
But it's not the Star Trek that we're used to.
Yes. And I'm hearing that from some people.
Yeah, but I don't agree with you on Nemesis.
Me neither. I'm so glad you're on this show. I have had to defend Nemesis day and night to this Trek FM people.
I've defended Nemesis. I've defended Star Trek 5. I'll defend Star Trek full stop.
All right.
So there's good in everything.
Yes.
Yeah. The driven by fear and ambition. When they came up with the Mirror Universe, it was basically what would happen if we as humans carried on the way we are. We never change, but our technology is. And that was the premise for the Mirror Universe. And the argument they made is, how much difference are we now to what we was 2,000 years ago? As a species, we still have the base instincts. We're still violent. We're still driven by ambition, greed. But our technology is way more advanced than what it was 2,000 years ago. But essentially, humans are the same. And that was the idea behind the Mirror Universe. If we carry on the way we are, yes, we're more advanced technology, but we're still these basic animals. And I think that's what it is. And I think what they're trying to do in Discovery is say, look, we've got this technology. We're at war. We're not the utopian society in Discovery. You know, there's damaged people. You know, there's Tilly, Michael Burnham, Lorca. And I think what they're doing with the Discovery is saying this is how far they could have fallen, but they haven't.
Wes Huntington says, wow, what a twist ending. I can't wait to see where we go from here. Is the palace Stamets warned about the Defiant? I correctly guessed the Kelpians would be a slave species of the Terran Empire. And wow, did Brandon get that right about this episode, finally establishing for sure Tyler was Vogue. I can't wait to see how ruthless Emperor Giorgio is to Lorca, who didn't bow when she demanded Michael bow.
See, I told you she didn't bow.
Yeah, right.
I told you we didn't bow. Actually, it's an interesting scene if you go back and rewatch it. Even when she says to Burnham, do you not bow before your emperor? And Burnham bows. If you look at Lorca, he smirks.
Oh, I missed that. I'm going to have to go back.
Yeah. Brian Louis, I think I have yelled and screamed as much as I have for a Star Trek since the first Kelvin Star Trek movie. The last 3 episodes have been my favourites of this series. The only thing that could have made my head explode is if the USS Defiant appeared on screen. Okay, Louis, you might want to hold on to your head next week. I love that the show is on a speeding train with all the answers we are getting on the screen. My favourite part, and I could just not stop smiling, was seeing the red disc that Suri was holding. That was a nice touch. A nice update of the classic discs from TOS. I cannot wait to see next week's episode, seeing the Emperor and Michael together. All we need now is the food cubes.
Oh, right.
That's all we need now is the food cubes. And then we're sorted.
All right. Chris Littlefield says, thanks, love. I slept on it. Oh, because he had mentioned that his comment originally wasn't that favorable, but he was going to sleep on it. So this is his post the next day. It was really an amazing episode. Love the Vogue-Tyler conflict, the reimagined Andorian, Tilly's empathy for Stamets, the depth of love between Saru and Burnham, and even though we knew it was coming, the totally badass reveal of Emperor Giorgio. I love how our Starfleet is establishing itself as a beacon of hope even in the mirror universe. I think this episode is pivotal to Disco's development of Roddenberry's vision of a future and Trek.
Yeah. That was a nice touch when they did that. This is the bit that made me laugh about this episode is when they revealed the Klingons, everyone went nuts. Mm-hmm. What have you done to the Klingons? Why have you changed the way they look?
Yeah.
Because that's never happened before. But they put a Tellarite and an Andorian in this episode, and everyone raved about them.
Yeah.
Not one person says, what have they done?
Yeah.
What have they done to the Tellarite? What have they done to the Andorians? No one said that, and it made me smile because I'm thinking, okay, you all got up in arms about the Klingons, but it's okay to change a Tellarite and Andorian.
Yeah, interesting.
So social media was very interesting on that aspect.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I'm really glad there's an Andorian's in this because I think the Andorians are brilliant.
Yes.
So Joe Slowinski. Mm-hmm. I have to say that I really like the story they are putting forth with Discovery. They have really put together a complex storyline with complex characters and new turns all the time. This episode had the area on the edge of my seat with all of the twists and turns that the Vok/Ash character went through with Michael. That being said, there's still a piece of my brain that screams every time we see something like the new Tellarite design. Oh, you preempt me.
Yep.
I truly don't understand why we can't leave well enough alone. However, I am trying to not let these things get in the way of what is clearly a great story. I am definitely looking forward to next week for more Giorgio. So, yeah. So someone did pick up on the Tellarite. There you go.
This was, however, the only one that I saw that questioned. Yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't stick with the 60s Tellarite theme, which is blatantly a pig.
Yeah, right.
And even when they redid it at Enterprise, I mean, Enterprise did a really good homage to the TOS version. Mm-hmm. But if you're gonna change the Klingons and you're gonna change the Andorians, then you're gonna change the Tellarite.
Yeah. So, Colin, how do you think the fans responded to this week's episode?
It was a good bag. It's a good bag. Positives, negatives, middle of the road. It's a really good bag. And as I said to you, to use a Ready Room euphonage on the other side of the room, the feedback that this series is generating is incredible. We never had this with DS9, TNG. Voyager was really talked about. Enterprise was talked about, but most of that was negative. But Discovery seems to bring out all sides of people. And it's not just Star Trek fans that want to talk about it. It's science fiction fans.
Right, yeah.
And I think that can only be good for Star Trek in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. Well, be sure to check out our Discovery coverage throughout the week. Live from the Edge airs on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can watch Bruce and Brandy and ask questions live, and then that will be released as a podcast on Tuesday mornings. Our commentary will be available as Tracks from the Edge on Wednesday with Mike Schindler. And of course, we got your feedback on postcards that drops on Thursday. And you can catch full analysis on the Edge main show on Friday with Brandon Shea Mutella. To wrap up the week, join us for Notes from the Edge on Saturday for links between Discovery and the broader franchise with Christopher Jones. You'll find all of these in the main feed for the Edge and in the Trek FM master feed. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Discovery, and the best place to do that is on the Babel Conference, and that's our listeners group on Facebook. I'll collect your feedback, and then we'll discuss it here on the show. Again, look for the Discovery in the envelope post. You can also find us on Twitter at Trek FM or send us email using the contact form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and choose the Edge. I love getting your emails, so keep them coming. So, Colin, where can people find you on the interwebs?
If you haven't got enough to read on Facebook.
I know, but the emails are straight to me.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. You can find me on Twitter at COLMH01. And that basically it. So, because I ain't got podcast. I've got this mic.
Yeah, you do.
I got the mic.
Do you step in on the Babel conference every now and then?
Yeah, I haven't been on since November last year.
Okay.
Because December was crazy for me for loads of reasons. But yeah, I do. I know what people, you might call it a lurker. I'm one of them people that reads but doesn't say anything.
Okay, now we know who you are.
So I will read, but the thing is, if you go on there, then people know you've been on there because it says you've been on there. So that's the one thing with that Facebook is it tells people when you're online, so you can't lurk. But yeah, I'm on Facebook as well.
Okay.
So download Trek News and Views. Still on Trek FM.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
You can find me. I am a co-host on Earl Grey and with Justin Ozer and Richard Marquez. That's where we talk about everything Next Generation. I am on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson, and favorite place is on the Babel Conference, so I'm always there. We would like to thank our associate producers, Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, Shoaib Mirza, Richard Rutledge, and James Muldrow. Thank you so much for supporting The Edge and Trek FM. If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows going and even become an associate producers just like those, visit patreon.com/trekfm for all the details. Well, thank you, Colin, for coming on Postcards. It was so fun to meet you and talk Star Trek Discovery.
Thank you for asking me on. It's been a lot of fun, and it's nice to be back on Trek FM.
Very good. Well, join us next week for another episode of Postcards from the Edge. Hailing frequencies open.